Hello world, welcome back to Razor RC. As you can see in front of us, I finished my restoration of the Stampede 4x4 VXL that I picked up I think a week or two back. So if you haven't seen episode 1, I picked up a pretty beat up little Stampede from Racing to Learn. I paid 150 bucks. It's pretty much a runner, although it was in pretty rough shape. So I basically spent the last couple of weeks fixing this up. Had a lot of fun. Actually, if you didn't know, the Stampede was my very first RC car, and I had a lot of fun with that, and then sold it a few years later. And so I hadn't had a Stampede in quite a long time, but I've been doing a lot more monster trucks and stuff lately, so figured it was a good time to pick one up. And then I just had fun fixing it, taking it apart, cleaning things up. Kind of particular about how I like my RC cars to be, so what's good for somebody else is a little bit different from what I like to run, but here it is, all done. So there we go, brand new body as you can see. So I'm going to go walk through this vehicle, talk about what changes I had to make, what parts I had to fix, and then we're actually going to do a total cost breakdown to see what I end up spending on this. So first off, the wheels, I'm running the stock Talon wheels. It's got two different sets, so one is a black chrome, one is kind of a light chrome. It doesn't quite match, but that's okay. And then starting from the front end, it had slash bumpers front and rear, so I picked up a new set of the Stampede bumpers front and rear. Those were probably 20 bucks or so. I had to basically rebuild the shocks completely, so I'm running the titanium nitride coated hardened shock shafts, aluminum shock caps, completely rebuilt the seals and everything. Some of the rod ends were bent and stuff, so I had to fix that. I'd already had these cool Techno M6 drive shafts and these aluminum steering knuckles, so that was pretty nice overall. Had to swap out the front arms. They were running RPM arms, and picked those up. Didn't have to pay for that, so that was actually already supplied. Completely rebuilt all the diffs, front and rear. Center slipper, I had to make some changes, but the front and rear disc, just completely rebuilt them with basically the rebuild kit. So new diff cup, new seals, fresh oil. I'm running 20K front, 10K rear. Probably would go up a little higher next time, maybe 30K and 20K next time, but it's running okay. The shock tires and stuff are fine, although as you can see, I'm running different shock spacers. So when you run the aluminum caps, you really should get this little shock part that allows you to run plastic spacers, so you don't get that metal on metal with the shoulder screws. I'll put down a link to all these parts that I picked up in the description below. Definitely check them out if you want to pick up any of those things. Front body post was completely different, so I think I had a spare one of these, so I just threw that on. Receiver box did not have a receiver, so I grabbed one out of a TRX4 that I had, so running that with a TQI radio. Was missing a battery strap and it had like the really super tall one, so I just picked up another stock piece. I think it was like $6 or $8. And then the servo, actually, I had lying around. So this is the 2075X, same as the 2075, which is the stock servo, but this has metal gear, so kind of a cool upgrade. I just had one lying around from my TRX4, wasn't using it, so didn't really have to pay for that. Had to change out some of these screws. I'm kind of a stickler, I guess, on having the right screw lengths and the right sizes and stuff, even down to like the button heads or whatever. So fixed that up, cleaned up the wiring here, as you can see, nice and clean and all tucked. Still missing kind of the drive shaft cover. I probably will not run that because it makes it hard to change it or adjust the slipper right there. ESC is the same, just kind of fixed up the heat shrink a little bit. Some of it was kind of run down or torn. Tucked that away. Motor is stock, nothing wrong with that. So all the electronics were pretty much fine. The servo had some issues, was not super consistent, so running the 2075X is fine. Spur gear and slipper, I had to kind of rebuild. The spur gear on the slipper was pretty much damaged. And then the rest of it was pretty much fine. Changed out a ton of bearings in this thing, probably 10 or 15 bearings. Those two always go bad on this thing. The one in the motor mount, the one on that input shaft, that always goes bad. Rebuilt the rear disc, put on a rear bumper. I'm not running the wheelie bar because that wheelie bar pretty much sucks, so you don't really don't generally run that on my Stampedes. Rear end, yeah, no real issues, I don't think. I had to get a new body mount for the rear, so I'm running the RPM ones, which are a little more flexible, a little more tough, less likely to break. And I just kind of tucked down all the body posts just so that the body doesn't sit, you know, super high up like the stock vehicle. So I think that's pretty much it. Just kind of rebuilt the whole car, and you know, it's all nice and clean. Just tore the whole thing apart. The steering rack was fine. Nothing else really on the bottom was broken. These, you know, sort of bulkheads are pretty worn, but they're running okay. The arms, for whatever reason, were like upside down. You can actually see that. I think the drive shafts were kind of grinding up against those. So yeah, just fixing little things here and there. Had to rebuild the drive shafts. They're pretty rusty and pretty much, you know, had no grease or anything on them at all. So the last thing is the body. Now this body is awesome. This is actually probably my favorite Traxxas product of all time. These things are 30 bucks, which is the same as like a Proline body. Pre-cut, like silk screen, so it's already painted except for a base color. So it's already got the black, silver, white silk screen on there, and you just take whatever color you want. In this case, you know, I went yellow. You just spray the bottom yellow, and then it comes out like perfect. I mean, it's like awesome looking. It's beautiful, and for 30 bucks, and it's pre-cut. It even has like really nice big stickers that are easy to put on. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever gotten from Traxxas. It's called the Pro Graphics body. Highly recommend it. It's not quite as thick as this, you know, the Proline parts. That one's probably like, you know, 0.8 millimeters. This is maybe 0.7 millimeters. We're talking like tenths of millimeters. So probably not quite as durable, but for 30 bucks and something that looks just completely professional and super nice, I think it's well worth it. So in terms of actual cost, oh yeah, last thing I did was get Techno aluminum hex adapters because the plastic ones are really horrible. Highly recommend changing those out. So what I bought was those titanium nitride coated shafts, front and rear, the hardened ones, shock rebuild kits for the front and rear end, aluminum shock caps, a set of 4. It already had 2 of them, but I need another set of 2. Adjustable body mount in the rear, the little shock spacers here, front and back, a new set of bumpers front and rear, a new battery strap, and then finally the body. I mean, some of the other parts like bearings, screws, that servo, that receiver I already had, so I'm not really counting that in the actual cost, but altogether I think it's $135, $140-ish, somewhere around there. Also paid $150 for the truck itself, so we're talking about a little under 300 bucks, and I've already got all the upgrades with the aluminum knuckles, the Techno drive shafts, which honestly cost about 100 bucks just for that set. And it's upgraded with, you know, better shocks overall. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my Traxxas Stampede 4x4 VXL. If you want to pick up any of those parts, just click down on the links below. I am going to run this, just kind of ran it up and down the street a little bit to get a feel for it, make sure, you know, the slipper was set right, set the steering correctly. I have a video on how to do that with your Traxxas vehicles because it is kind of important. If you don't set the endpoints correctly, then it will actually end up wearing on the servo and causing some issues. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll probably put a couple other videos on this. I already have one on how to rebuild the diffs. I have one on all kind of the upgrades I made to this. I'm also going to put a video on how to rebuild the shocks, tearing these things apart, and then kind of things to look out for, the eclipse, that kind of thing. And then probably maybe a teardown video, all the different pieces, kind of how to get to all the individual parts. I actually completely stripped this thing down to the bare bones. I didn't even realize this the first time I owned a Traxxas Stampede or Slash, but to get to the diffs, you know, they split in half like vertically. So I always thought you had to take off the bumpers, you know, of course, take off the arms and just completely remove the whole bulkhead off of the main chassis, but you don't have to do that. You can actually kind of leave everything in place, just kind of get to those screws, pull off the cap, and then you can pull out the diffs. So they have, like, you know, relatively quick access diffs and a lot easier than I remember this being. So anyways, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications button. Look for more videos soon, and thanks for watching.